If your childhood was anything like mine, a normal Saturday morning probably consisted of waking up really early, around like 6 or 7:30 in the morning, grabbing some super processed sugary cereal, and then plopping your ass down for a good 6 to 7 hours. Sometime around 9:30, 10-ish a.m., your favorite TV show, X-Men, would come on, and you then spend the rest of the day pretending that you had powers and you were a part of the team. At least that's what I heard some people do. With that being said, you can imagine just how excited I was when I heard that after nearly 30 years, Disney, of course, was rebooting this show, not only with the same art direction, but with most of the original cast and everything. Needless to say, the 7-year-old boy that lives inside me was doing backflips. It was crazy. With the season finally over, I figured it was about time for me to kind of gather my thoughts and really let you guys know what I think. So strap in, because I'm going to be breaking down my thoughts on X-Men 97 and whether this show is overrated or whether it does live up to the hype. I'm just telling you guys as well, there are going to be a lot of spoilers in this, so if you're not about that, it's completely okay for you guys to jump off right now and go watch something different. So, for those of you who don't know, but you obviously do know if you're watching this video, X-Men 97 is a 2024 cartoon that is a continuation of the classic 1992 X-Men cartoon series that, a lot of millennials would have grown up with. Kind of an interesting side note, at least I think so, but when it comes to this show, while it is on Disney Plus and it is considered an MCU era television show, it is not really connected to the MCU in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it would be more connected to like the, I guess, Spider-Man animated universe, or maybe X-Men, whichever one. You guys can comment down below on how you guys want to distinct that universe. But yeah, it's not connected to the MCU in any way. I kind of think that's cool because the state of the MCU now, it's cool to have some Marvel stuff that has no attachment to that. So yeah, basically, X-Men 97 picks up where the show left off, with the team dealing with the recent death of Professor X. While everyone on this team, minus Jubilee, is an actual adult, because of Professor and who he was, he played a father figure type role to everyone, and so everybody on this team is really dealing with his death in their own way. Just as we see this team kind of get used to the new dynamic and what that means to be X-Men without the Professor there, Magneto busts in and he takes charge of the team, and we kind of go from there. It's definitely a flip on the regular formula, but as you'll see, it really goes in and becomes so much more than that. Of course, it's an X-Men show, so you're gonna get mad mutant battles and all types of fuckery. But what we really get to see in this show, at least I felt, is that we get to see the X-Men as a family in so many ways. We get to see the burgeoning lives of Scott and Jean, or at least the woman that we all think is Jean. We get to see Storm lose herself and then find herself once again. We get to see Jubilee, of course, playing that youthful teenage character. She adds the youth to it, gives the show that teenage spark. Wolverine is obviously being his best edgy uncle, while Beast and Morph, they each play the polar opposites when it comes to the eccentric uncle, if you will. I also really like this show, how we got to see a lot of depth when it came to Rogue and Gambit, as well as Rogue and Magneto. I thought it was interesting. It kind of played on a lot of other different timelines and comic books that we've seen before. Gambit's sacrifice, I was sick. Adding Sunspot, I thought that it was a cool touch, but for whatever reason, his power, his character just kind of pissed me off in this show. I know it's not a power set thing because I can't stress it enough. I love his powers, like the whole getting strong, being able to fly, absorbing from the sun. I love it, but the way that they made his character, as the girls like to say, it gave me the ick. He felt a bit too zesty for my taste. Morph coming back to the cast again, it was cool, but I also kind of felt it to be a little bit unnecessary, I'm not gonna lie. The whole Goblin Queen saga and how we ripped through that, yes, I know it was a condensed version of it, but I thought it was cool. Even Cable and everything, and now that it's in the clear, we know who it is. I personally loved it. Going back to the whole family idea and how the idea of fatherhood was so prevalent and how we see Cable and Cyclops interact, and I was so in for it. On so many levels, I was so in for it. As this is an X-Men show, we obviously get the usual band of suspects when it comes to villains. I thought that it was cool with Bastion and the way that they kind of made him the overall antagonist of the season. But because he wasn't necessarily one of the bigger ones in the comic books, I get it, yes, he did have his own arc and stuff, but I don't know, I felt a tad bit underwhelmed, I guess. I get it, he made sense for the story and what they were kind of trying to do, but for me, as an X-Men fan, I kind of wish that somebody else stepped up and was the major villain. I like Sinister as a villain, but unless it's an apocalypse, really heavy type story, I prefer to see him as a main antagonist. Going to the Mojoverse, I thought that was fun, and he's always a really weird villain as a whole. So I liked how they brought him in the sense to say that he felt contemporary for the show, as well as contemporary for us because of that whole nostalgic feeling to it. Thought that was cool. Charles and the Shi'ar stuff, I appreciated that. I was a big fan of the Vulcan cameo. Whether they go anywhere with it, we'll see, but I thought it was cool that they even added him in. The whole time I was watching the show, 100%, I was like, yo, Valerie Cooper is Mystique. Valerie Cooper is Mystique. I kept waiting for the aha, it was her the whole time, I was right, but never was. I was happy to be wrong, I like it. I thought that was cool. There were a lot of villains that I really wanted to see, but again, so far with everything that's going on, I'm really happy. Magneto and just everything that he went through in this TV show, I could obviously go in depth and do a whole video about him, but I loved it. Even just the fact that they kind of brought in the asteroid M, and they had the team go up there and he rips out Wolverines out of it, I'm not even gonna lie, I felt like I took a honey pack after watching that. I'm not even gonna lie. The art direction in this show, incredible. It's like they took everything that made the old show really cool and distinctive and just kind of revamped it, just kind of gave it that chef's kiss for a modern day. The action sequences, goes without saying, they were absolutely incredible. I can't stress it enough how much I love the fact that they really gave each character their own scene to shine somewhere throughout this season, at least once. The writing, spot on. Even just the way that the characters, they spoke and they sounded. Yes, it felt cheesy at times, but it felt true to this iteration of the team if you watch the cartoon. All of that really overly dramatic, almost soapy dialogue, I was all here for it. OF or not, I don't care. Bo DeMeo, he put his soul into this shit. You can tell whether it was him or maybe just somebody else on the writing team, they were true fans of the X-Men lore and all of that mythology, but they also tried to be observers of society, X-Men comic books, if you really know what they're about, they've always resonated and they're really kind of made in a way to talk about social issues. And this series itself, it was no different. In terms of all of the different superhero cameos that we got, they were well needed. I definitely wish we had a crossover episode It was cool the way that you kind of get the Rogue and Captain America one, but again, it would have been sick to have another Spider-Man type crossover episode with that X-Men series, or you know, like I can only think, but it was still great seeing them all. As somebody who grew up and appreciates comic books and all that stuff, this show, it had it all. At first, I was scared when I heard that they were doing a reboot to this X-Men series, but I would say 5 minutes into the first episode, I was hooked again. Of course, you're gonna have some dud episodes, but that's just the case with every season of every TV show. That's life, that's what happens. In terms of season 2 and the plot lines that they're setting up from now, I'm hype, I'm all here for it. One thing that I really will give this show its kudos about is the fact that they didn't really make this season in particular super Wolverine focused. He's one of Marvel's most beloved characters, so I get why they always try to milk him, but I love the fact that this show, this season, it didn't really try to do that, and it chose stories that really involved the rest of the team. So much so that like Wolverine almost wasn't really there, like you didn't really see him that much. But considering we see the whole adamantium thing, it goes without saying we're gonna have a lot of Wolverine-focused episodes next season, which I feel like they've kind of earned now because, again, we didn't get a lot of them this season. So I'm not even opposed to it. All in all, this show, if you're asking me, it is deserved of all of the praise that it's getting. It really is one of the best pieces of Marvel content that we have seen in years. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Marvel and the MCU in particular, their track record, it's been a bit spotty for the last few years. But I feel like this TV show was a real step in the right direction of showing what Marvel, and in many ways the MCU, could be if they kind of took it serious again. Here's hoping that they do a reboot of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon as well, because that would be just, I've seen little rumors here and there of Spider-Man 98, but that would, to me, that would be it. That would be it. Thank you if you've made it this far. If you're a fan of this type of content, I'll need you to like, subscribe, and comment down below on which other shows you guys think that I should talk about. It could be anything, I don't even care. Honestly, thanks for all the support. Stay safe. Later days.